Well, I'm not sure how much you guys missed, but a phone call came in. My camera stopped recording. All right. What's up, everyone? It's Matt Mrozik, and this will be work in progress number 2 on the Samurai Wolverine. So last video, we got basically the body parts that fit well, so it doesn't wobble. And I found out who the commissioner was, or the factory that actually did this piece, and it explains my fitting issues. So I'm not going to mention who it is, but that's why I know because of the factory that did this piece, I know why I'm having fitting issues, because their stuff is very hit or miss. It's either really good or not so good or kind of in between. So that's why I'm having fitting issues. Anyway, so this video is going to be really concentrating on the tree and getting all of these branches to fit better and not be so loose. I just did notice that this trunk is a little loose down here at the very bottom. The weight wants to pull it apart. So I may, the magnet's just not very strong. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. We'll see. Once we get this all kind of figured out up here, I may add a pin to the back side of this branch right here, so that doesn't want to sag a little bit. So anyway, back to the tree. So we have the main trunk, which comes up from the base here. And then we have these two pieces that fit in pretty good. I don't think I have to do anything to these. These need to be, everything needs to be removable for shipping. This magnet's nice and strong. This magnet's nice and strong, and the fit's pretty good. So I'm not going to worry about this. Okay, so these can come off. I do have a couple tips that are broken, and that's just how it showed up. I got this kit secondhand, so I am missing 2 handles, or whatever they're called, for the samurai swords, for the metal blades. So I'll have to mold and cast new ones from the other ones that I have, and that'll be something new. So I'll have to show you how I'm going to do that, because I have to figure it out. So all the other branches come off of this piece right here. So I'm going to put the base aside, because we only really need to work with this and all the other branches. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 branches that come off this center piece. So, which is fine, but we have a lot of interference with metal pins, and some of the pieces don't fit right. So I'm going to spend quite a bit of time like getting one piece in, getting to fit, and I may use some Aves and bring a key out a little further and kind of blend it in, so I have more meat for the branches to stick in. Because if I just put them in, and if you look at photos of built ones, you can see where the branches are kind of falling out of this center thing. So, and I don't want that. I want this to be as stable as possible. So my client puts it together, it looks good, the branches aren't falling out. He can maybe put on a turntable or a rotating base and not have to worry about the branches falling out just from their own weight. So I'm going to kind of clear my workbench off, and we're going to work with this and all the other branches. Okay, so here we are. We have the 8 branches and that center piece. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And we're just kind of going to tackle these one at a time. So, first few minutes of this is just going to be me kind of playing with these pieces and figuring out which ones need the most work. And it's really, let's see, this one's got a magnet. So let's find out where these all go. Now they are numbered, but it's hard to read the numbers on many of them. So, but they only really do fit in one spot. Okay, so that one looks like it goes, yeah. So this one goes there. That one's pretty solid. If you look, the gap is minimal. There are going to be seams because it has to come apart. I think that one's okay. It's pretty solid, and there's a magnet in there. But again, there's a lot of weight. You know, at the end, it's very unbalanced because you have all the weight on the end here. So this key needs to be nice and strong. And I think this one's okay, especially by the time I get paint and stuff on there. I don't think that was going anywhere. So I can put this one to the side. Okay, let's look at See if I can find number. See, this one's got a number 5 on it. I'm not sure if we can read it. Probably not. Number 5. I'm going to come down a little closer. Okay, well, this one is relatively easy to figure out because it's a nice and big key. And the rest of these have pegs. Okay, so we know, well, yeah, we know what to do so I don't get confused. I'm going to actually mark with Sharpie. Just, I'm going to put a little dot on this key that I know that I've already kind of looked at that one. And I don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to do that just so I don't drive myself insane trying to see if I've done something. I'm just going to put a little dot. That lets me know I've looked at that one and that we're okay. So this has a number 2 on it, but again, trying to find, okay, so that doesn't go there. And these all have metal pegs. And part of the problem is that the metal pegs they run into each other because there's not a lot of meat for this center column. Okay, that doesn't fit. I'm just going to go one by one. Okay, so this is where that one goes. Okay, so this is number 2. And if I sit there and I just kind of let it go, you see there's a big gap right there. See the waddle? It's very loose. So this needs to be rekeyed. And I think the best way to do that is I'm going to do with Bondo. We're going to try with Bondo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rekey it with Bondo and see how that does. And then I might, once that's done, I might do some sculpting with Aves and build a little kind of lip coming out around this so it kind of keys into it more. So let's put these to the side. And we know we're going to work on this one. I'm just going to do one at a time. And I probably won't show all this on camera because it's going to be the same process over and over again, but very similar to the last video where it's like once I do something once, it's just repeated over and over again. So again, I'm taking some lacquer thinner. Someone asked me what thinner I use. This is lacquer thinner to clean up Bondo and get the primer off and stuff. So get some lacquer thinner. And we're going to clean this off all the way around. Okay, just like that. So it's completely white, so we know the primer's off. And we're going to leave the primer on this side for now. We're going to key it here. Just like that. And we're going to get a little filler. My goal is to not break any more tips off of these guys. Where the tips are breaking is like when there's a bud that goes like this. I'm surprised this didn't break because there's a little key here from one of the cherry blossoms. So it happens that the resin's weaker right there. So the few tips I'll probably have to, if I can pin it, I'll pin it. If there's enough meat, but more than likely now I'll have to super glue and epoxy and hopefully they'll stay together. Okay. Where's my trash can? There it is. Same thing as yesterday with doing all the other body parts. We're using Vaseline and Bondo. So maybe a little Vaseline. No, it happened to the one I was working on. Dang it. I just had it. Oh, this one. I gotta find it again. Not that one. Not that one. This one? Okay, this one. Don't lose it. This one right here. Let's put these off to the side over here in a pile. All right. We got my filler off to the side here. It's just a big can of Bondo. You guys saw it yesterday, so. Fold this cardboard over so I can use it. First, but I don't need a lot. I always say that and I mix up too much. I'm using the wrong end of the spreader. That's the thick side, not the thin side. I'm going to cut this off. And when you're working with Bondo or any body filler, put the lid back on. Don't leave it off too long. I've been known to do that, and then it dries out. All right, so as before, we're going to Vaseline this up really, really well. Whole thing. Okay, just like that. And then I want to kind of get some of this excess off. Okay, like that. A little hardener. And when you're using body filler, don't use white hardener because you can't tell if you're mixed it up well. Sometimes they come with white hardener, and right away, if that's the case, I go buy some blue or red because you can't see if it's mixed up or not. Unless you're using a different color filler. Sometimes you can get a filler that's kind of bluish in tone. In that case, it's no big deal. All right, we're going to mix this up. Yeah, this is way more than I need. Probably a little too much harder, but it's okay. So today will be the last day I do anything on this piece because I'm going out of town for the holiday to our lake house tonight, or tomorrow morning. Actually, the kids have school till today, but they're off tomorrow and Monday. So we are heading to our lake house for the first time in like a year. My family has a lake house out in East Texas. Okay, so now we're just going to kind of slop it on there. And then we're going to give this a good push, like so, and let it sit. So I'm going to hold this in this position. That's where it needs to be. I'm putting pressure on it. Actually, it needs to be there. I had it kind of in the wrong spot. There we go. So I'm just going to hold this for a few minutes and chat. So anyway, I've got our mold and cast, the some handles for the metal blades. Never done that before. I've been wanting to learn how to mold and cast. I don't have a pressure pot or anything, or a vacuum chamber or anything like that. So hopefully I can get some decent castings that don't require a crap load of cleanup and bubble filling. So, I mean, luckily they're easy. They're relatively simple parts. They're not like super complicated. You can do it in a 1-part mold. Just a matter of kind of figuring how to do it, buying supplies. I actually have casting resin here. I bought a while ago for filling 3D prints. So that's not a problem. It's just making the molds, which is completely new to me. All right, so it's starting to solidify, but I'm going to let it sit a little bit longer. A little spongy right now. If I push on it, it's starting to kick off. I'm going to let that harden up a little bit more. There's a kind of a sweet spot as far as doing this process, as far as when you pull the parts apart. If you pull them apart too soon, then you'll end up pulling Bondo out of your key. If you wait too long, you'll end up what happened yesterday with my torsos, where I thought I glued the torso on the waist, and it was really hard to get apart. But like I said, you're really not gluing it together. What's happening is that the fit is so good, you're creating a vacuum. And once you get a little bit of air into that key, they'll come apart eventually. It's scary when that happens because it's happened to me before where I've thought I've glued or bonded pieces together forever. Like, oh shit. And then like trying to figure out how to get them apart. So I'm just kind of pushing on this to see how solidified it is. It's getting a little harder. I can let go of this now and it's not going to move. But I think what I'm going to do is once I kind of get these keyed, like I said, I may go in some Aves and just kind of sculpt a little bit more of the center branch out over these branches. And the nice thing about it being a tree, it doesn't have to be like super pretty because it's a tree. So, you know, it's going to have some imperfections. Okay, so I'm going to try to pull this apart. I'm just going to give it a little wiggle. There we go. Okay, so now we got a new key there. And we're going to let this harden up even a little bit more before I go and start cleaning it up. So what I did is basically added some material just around the edges here. And hopefully it'll give it some more support. But if I can kind of, once I get these all rekeyed and then get, you know, the branches in, sculpt some, I can, again, Vaseline all around like this part of the branches and put some Aves on this trunk and kind of just sculpt it a little bit differently and get those keys better. Then we'll have a much better, much more stable piece. So I kind of right now I've got this little ridge of filler coming up, but Bondo is not a structural material, so it wouldn't be, I think over time it could possibly fail. So it's better to do it with Aves because Aves is, once it dries, it's rock hard. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Trim this up a little bit here. Just like that. Well, I still got a little pliability left in it. Okay. Like I said, since this is a tree, if this is a little rough, it's actually okay. This is a tree. And it's bark. So it doesn't have to be like perfectly smooth. So I'm kind of scrape this a little bit and add a little texture back into that. Okay. So I'm going to let this solidify all the way before I put that branch back in and see how good the fit is. Excuse me. I'm going to wipe this off. Oh shit, I just broke that. See? Now I get to pin and fix that. Let's do that real quick while we're waiting, since I just broke that branch off because I was an idiot. Oh my gosh. So now I get to fix this branch. So I'm going to put a pin in it. Oh gosh. I haven't to try to manhandle something. Sometimes I'm stupid. Actually, I'm stupid a lot of times. So I'm putting in a 1/16 inch hole here. So another thing about, and a lot of factories in China, they just use cheap resin. It's like super brittle. Like I didn't put a lot of pressure on it, it snapped. I think Onage uses a better resin. It's not quite as brittle, but you're paying for it. I mean, that's why Onage stuff is as expensive as it is, because they're using better materials and their pieces in the end are just better produced. Okay, so I like to check the depth of my pin by just kind of putting my finger on the drill bit. Then I pull it out and I kind of like, okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and make this pin go all the way into that branch, to the center branch. Like that. Don't know if I can get a 3/32 inch hole in here. Let's see. This one doesn't need to be as deep. So this is a 3/32 inch drill bit, and it's just big enough to drill a hole. And I'm making this one bigger because I'm not exactly centered on the other one, and this will give me some room to play with the pin. And hopefully everything lines up. So this process right here is what I'm going to try to do in all the other broken areas, is pin them. So there's some stability, but a lot of the areas I won't build because the resin's so thin, there's no room to drill. So what I'll probably do is glue them and then put little aves, sculpt some aves around where the break is, just to add some stability. Again, it being a tree trunk, I can kind of make it up. And then we're going to get some 1/16 inch brass rod, which I have right here. And we just need a little pin. This is going to go in here, like so. That's way too long as far as it. Let's see if we lined up at all. Okay, take a little bit more off. Okay, drill this a little bit deeper. This is good because while I do this, that bond is drying. Okay. Will work. Okay, so now what I do is I take the pin out and I like to scuff it up a little bit. Some sandpaper. So the glue has something to stick to, so I'm just using some coarse. It's about, well, not coarse, but it's about 120 grit, 200 grit sandpaper, sanding sponge. And I'm just adding a little tooth to the pin. This is the same process I go through when I was pinning Gundam models. Like that. Now we're gonna do a little glue in this end. The pin in. Tap it down. And now this hole's bigger, so I got a little more room to play. I'm gonna fill that hole with glue. Then any ooze out should fill. I'll let that sit for a second, and then I'll wipe away the excess, and that ooze out will fill in the seam. And I'll just get a Q-tip. Just kind of wipe it over, and then we'll hit with some kicker. And then I'll sand it just a little bit to blend it, but there you go. That's how you fix when you're an idiot and you break something like that. That's how you fix it. Okay, now this bond is dry. Let's see how this is fitting and have we have any drooping. Okay, Okay, so we put that in. It's much better. So it still feels a little loose because the weight that's coming off the branch. So like I said later, once I get these all kind of rekeyed like this, I think I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna sculpt some A's up the side of this and just make a deeper key. So that's what I'm gonna do to the rest of these branches. That same process, I'm gonna go through and fit them, rekey them. And then when I get done with that, I'll come back and we'll look at doing the A's work. Okay, so after several hours, I got everything kind of fitting pretty good. It's much more stable. These branches aren't loose. I've got a few little gaps here and there. I'm going to try to fill. I'm going to do some A's work. And a few of these I just had to bend the pins. So like these two big pieces, I just bent the pins and that's all stable. So what I'm going to do now, because nothing's like shaky or wobbly, it all seems pretty good to me. I'm going to start doing some A's work on a few of these pieces, and that A's will have to dry for 2 or 3 hours before I can take the branches out. So I trimmed pins here and there where I needed to, because some of these pins interfere with each other. But yeah, we're getting there. It's a tedious process to get everything to fit. But it's really those 3 branches right there fit pretty good out of the gate. Those 3, they just need the pins needed some adjusting. These guys, these 5 right here, the ones are really sketchy. So I've rekeyed them. Like this one's a little loose still, but I'm going to do some A's on it. So now we're going to let me take off all these other branches, put these to the side. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do on these pieces with the A's. And I'm just going to do one at a time again, just taking my time. And we're going to take all these off and we're just going to work with one at a time. So now what I got to do is I have to go back through with thinner, lacquer thinner, because I've got Vaseline on these parts and we're going to clean them off really good. Well, this part we'll need to get Vaseline again, but I'm going to go ahead and clean it off anyway. Start clean with it. Like that. Yeah, and in particular, this area is going to need to be cleaned really well. So it's like a 2-step process. We're going to use the Bondo to kind of get the key fitting better to begin with. And then we're going to use A's to kind of finish it off and hopefully get some better results. Okay. So what I think we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and Vaseline. I'll make sure this is really clean. I'm actually going to scuff this up again a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to use, again, some thinner just to clean that area up. And now we're going to Vaseline this again. And I'm going to do the same process on all of these branches that I'm doing on this one. I can see if I can do more than one at a time. I don't know. We'll see. Depends if I can get the branch to stay where I want it to stay while I'm doing the A's work. And I think if I use some rubber bands, I can get them to stay where I want. So I'm going to give this a try. Okay, so it's this one and this guy. I'm going to put that in. Like that. Okay. No, maybe not. Because the way I need the pressure is very specific. Okay. So I think I'm going to do, let me think about this. Okay. Get some A's mixed up. And I don't need a lot. We're kind of sculpt the key around this a little bit. So we can make these branches a little more stable. Equal parts of A and B. I'm going to add a little more Vaseline up the trunk of this branch. I can't get Vaseline on the big part because then the A's won't stick. I'm going to take this off real quick. Just make sure I have plenty going up. This branch. Okay, like that. Okay. So now we're going to take this Aves. Got mixed up here. And we're going to I'm going to put it on like this first, and then I'm going to let this sit for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Let it kind of start to solidify a little bit. And then I can kind of sculpt it a little bit better. But I want to bring it up this branch, mainly in the bottom area. Give it some more support. Again, I'm not trying to avoid any seams because they're going to have seams no matter what. But if I can add some more stability. Now I'm going to take this. I got some alcohol on here. I'm just going to kind of blend it into the big trunk. And I need to keep this in this position. I was going to try to use a rubber band, but it wasn't putting the pressure on the way I wanted it. This is kind of getting a little texture into the Aves too. So about, I don't know, I'm going to check this in about 45 minutes, 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and see how this is starting to solidify, because it'll start to kick off in about 30 minutes. And as it gets harder, you can sculpt more details in. But since I got Vaseline on that branch, after about an hour and a half, I should be able to pull it out of this key and it should hold its shape. So we're going to let this sit on my bench like this for a while. But just using the Q-tip, I don't know if you can see it. I kind of sculpted in some bark texture. But this will help stabilize this branch a little bit more. So let's let that sit for a while, and then we'll come back and take a look at it. Okay, so I'm back. I took a few days off for the holidays, and now we're going to get back to work on this tree. So the last part of this video was working on this center section here, getting all these branches rekeyed. And then I used Aves. You can see here where I kind of blended this key up. So now it's a smoother transition between the branch. And now all the branches fit in really well. There's one little key I got to do a little more work on, but you can see that the key is much deeper before. It was just this little square peg and the pin holding it in. But now I got this nice big key. It fits in there nicely, just like that, kind of snaps in. And there's still going to be a seam. There's nothing you can do about that, but it's less noticeable and it blends in a little bit better. So I did that to all of the pieces except for, I think, 2 of them. These keys work really well. This one right here, let me see, spin this around a little bit. This key right here works really well. There's a little bit of a gap there, and this one. I do see one branch where I may go in and do a little more gap filling, but for the most part, those keys work really well. So now another thing I'm going to do while I'm here working on the tree is I'm going to work on these branches here. There's a lot of interference here. They're crossing, and these get all these branches get the flower petals or the cherry blossoms. But I think if these are touching, there's going to be some interference with the cherry blossoms. Now, I do have to go through and fix some of these tips that broke off. I've got probably half a dozen tips that broke off just in shipping here, so I'm going to try to pin those. But I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to heat this branch up, or this one right here, and see if I can bend it out of the way a little bit. This is a little thick. Actually, I would like to take this. I'd like to take this one and kind of bend it out this way. So I think I'm going to do that. So let me get the hair dryer. Actually, the heat gun real lightly on low setting. And I'm going to heat this up right in this area, and hopefully I don't melt anything. So I got 2 settings, low and high. So we can put it on low. I'm just going to move it real back and forth. Keep this moving so you don't melt the resin. So my goal is to bend it right in this area towards the camera. So I'm going to heat this up pretty good. I want to get nice and pliable. You have to be careful with a heat gun because it will, if you hold it in one spot too long, you will burn / melt the resin. And on this piece, you know, it's actually wouldn't be the end of the world because it is like a wood texture. But on certain things, you want to be real careful that you don't do that. So we're going to see what we can do here. I want to bend this branch out of the way so it's not interfering with that branch. So this will take a little while because this is really relatively thick right here. And you want to heat it all the way around. Just keep it moving. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to bend it towards us. That's my goal here. Okay, so it's starting to get pliable. I can feel it wanting to bend right here. Just keep it moving. Okay, it's pretty soft. I'm going to do a little bit longer. I can feel that it's pliable now. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to bend this branch just like that. I'm going to bend it a little further than I want because it's going to spring back a hair. I'm going to heat this up just a little bit more. So now these branches are crossing. So I'm going to just hold this here. Keep this heat gun moving. Again, you want to do this slowly. You don't want to do this too fast. Okay. And while I'm holding this, I can actually feel the tension release in the resin. Kind of interesting. You feel a little spring back, a little back pressure. Like I can feel it pushing against my finger here. But as I heat it up, I can feel it release. So I still want to go back. I'm going to heat down here a little bit. I guess I'm going to bend it more than I initially want because it will spring back a little bit. Heat this area a little bit more. I feel like I'm Miyagi-san sculpting my bonsai tree. I think I need to heat the backside a little bit more. That's where the pressure is. There it goes. You can use boiling water in some cases. I could, if I had a pot big enough and I wanted to wait for the water to boil, I could have stuck this branch in boiling water, but the heat gun is much quicker. You just have to be careful. And where my thumb is on this branch, you can see that's where one of the tips broke off. Okay, so now in heating all that, this branch here is actually starting to sag. So I'm going to actually lift that up a little bit. Get that out of the way. This one here on my left hand, over here my thumbs, this started to sag because they got heated too. So we're just going to kind of resculpt both of these. And I'm going to hold them here for, 35, 45 seconds to a minute as they cool down. Ideally, if I had some really cold ice water, I could pour on them and it would kind of lock them into place. But I don't, so we're just going to hold them here for a little bit and see where they spring back to. This one's pretty warm. I put a lot of heat on this branch here. I can actually twist it a little bit too. But we'll want to go back to its initial memory. I'm going to twist this one a little bit. Yeah, this one's pretty soft. This one got a lot of heat on it, so we're going to hold that out of the way for a while. So I'm going to hold these for a little bit and I'll come back and show you where they end up. Okay, so what I'm doing, because these are taking a while to cool down, I'm taking my hair dryer, and most have a cold setting, which is basically just blowing the room air on it. So I'm going to blow this on there, see if we can't get these to solidify. Okay, so after doing that, blowing that cold air on there, these have cooled down. They're just slightly warm to the touch, but they're not hot. So these should stay there now. So now these two branches aren't crossing. This branch was way up here going through these two branches here. This was lower. So now we don't have interference here, and the cherry blossom shouldn't be a factor. So I am going to go in and do my probably some Aves work on this key right here. Maybe I'll just do a little Bondo because this gap is bugging me. I'm not sure if you can see it here because I'm kind of far away. But this gap up here is kind of bugging me. So I'm going to try to close that gap up a little bit. And then let's see, what else can we do? I mean, I'm spending this much time on the tree alone, but we want to make it look as good as possible. And then there's a little bit of a gap up here. I'm not sure if you can see it. I'm just going to zoom in. It's minimal. I may just leave that one right here. So some of these keys are tricky because when I did the Aves work, the way that the branches have to go in, I had to actually trim some of the Aves back so I could get the branch in. Ideally, I could put the whole thing together and ship it, but everyone that's attempted that, the tree shows up in 1,000 pieces. So I'm going to, the next thing I'm going to do though, is I'm going to take this top part off. Give me 1 second to pause. Okay, so I took this top part off. That was the part we did all the key work on. I'm going to do a little bit more on that, but I don't need to show on camera because it's the same process. These two branches fit just fine. I don't have to do any work on those except for gluing some of these tips on. You can see the tip broke off here. I'll try to put a pin in there, but there's not much meat to do so. So what I may do is, what I'll probably do is glue it and then do a little bit of Aves work on the outside, sculpt some more thickness there just to give it a little more meat and strength. And I'll show that process when I get to it. But now what I want to do is this branch right here, the big branch, it fits pretty good, but with the weight, it wants to pull out. So it wants to pull up right there. So I'm thinking I need to put a pin right here. So not a big pin, just something to give it a little more strength so that when the whole thing's together, it's not pulling out like that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have just a little pin. When I mean little, I mean, it doesn't have to go doesn't have to go really deep. But I do want to do it with like maybe like a 1/8 inch brass. Let's do that. Do 1/8. Okay, let's get a drill bit going here. 1/8 inch drill bit. Got one somewhere. Again, they'll go through drill bits quick. I lose them and I break them a lot. So here's one. Okay. So again, I just want to put a little something in this spot right here so that it kind of helps prevent that pulling up. The magnet, there's a magnet, but to be honest, it's not crazy strong. It's not, it should be stronger. So yeah, so I thought this was an owners produced kit, but it's not. So that explains these issues I'm having with this piece. Other than that, I mean, it's a great piece. It's just, there's some production issues with it. Let's see, more than I anticipated. Yeah, so that pulls up pretty easily right there. So if I can get a pin, not a lot of meat here, right here. I want to put a pin right there. I'm going to do it right here. Let's see what I'm doing. So this is a 1/8 inch. Let's come up here. So there's some There's some decent meat right here. And then we're going to do our blue tack trick on the other side. So I'm just going to go right up in here. And hopefully this will keep that from pulling out from the trees together. So I'm sticking some blue tack on this end. And then we're going to put it down and give it a little push. And now I've got a spot for that hole. I'm just going to drill here on my lap. And hopefully we line up. Okay, on this side, there's not a lot of material to grab onto. Okay, so I went through a little bit, but that's okay. I got a hole here. I actually went through on the other side, but that's okay. I'll putty it and fill that in. Yeah, I just need a short one now. I'm going to give that a go first and see if that fits. Okay. I'm going to adjust my hole here a little bit. And if it doesn't work, excuse me, this doesn't work, I just putty it back up. But I want to see if I can get this to fit better. Nope. So I was afraid of that. So since there was a lot of meat there, this actually busted out. So that's not going to work, unfortunately. There's just not enough meat here to put a pin, so I need to glue that back on. I guess I can just try to it's the key's a little loose, so maybe I just rekey it like I did the other part. So I may try that, just so it's a tighter fit. But I just feel like there's too much wiggle in there, so I may rekey this like I did the other parts, like the torsos and stuff. I think that may be my best bet. So I'll probably go ahead and do that and show you the results of that. It's the same process. I'll Bondo, Vaseline the key and everything and get it to fit better. And then hopefully that'll give it enough resistance to want to pull up right there. So I'll come back when I'm done with that. Okay, so I just rekeyed this branch, and it seems like it's got a better, tighter fit now. So it didn't take a lot, just a little bit of putty in there, and I put the other piece on there, and it fits. So again, it's not pretty in here, but we don't care about what that looks like because you're not going to see it when this is all put together. So got a slightly tighter fit now, and it doesn't seem like it wants to pull out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the base to this to the side. I've gone through and pulled out all the branches that need to be fixed as far as the tips breaking off. And these are all the pieces that need to be fixed. I also went through and just double checked all the keys for the branches and everything looks good. So once I get these fixed, the tree should be done being prepped. So now this is like a jigsaw puzzle because I got to figure out which pieces go where. Some of these have keys, like this is a pretty small there's not much meat here for gluing, so we're going to see if we can find the piece that goes there. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. This might be it. Okay, so this one goes. Don't think so. Hopefully I didn't lose any of these. If I did, then I'll have to resculpt it. Okay. I think we're okay there. So I didn't see that piece. I'm going to see if I can find it. Okay. This goes here. That I can tell. Nope. I think this is it right there. Okay, so this piece goes here. I'm not going to show all these on camera because it's going to be the same process. So there's a little bit of meat there. I could try to get a pin into it. Let's see. 1/16 inch pin. Just give it some more, something, a little more support. So when I'm doing small pieces like this, I like to use a pin vise and not a drill. So I have more control. So where I can put a pin, I will. Like I said, I'll probably glue these and then do a little bit of A's work on the outside just to kind of give it some more support and just kind of blend it in. Now here, I've got enough room to put in a 3/32 inch hole, which will just give me a little more room to play with the pin as far as like placement. It doesn't be precise. So the first side I did a 1/16 inch, which is the size of my pin. This side I'm doing a 3/32 inch hole. And I'm just guesstimating where it goes. And I got enough room to go a little further, so we're gonna there. And here's the piece I just did. We're gonna cut. So again, I like to roughen up the brass rod so the glue's got something more to stick to. Like that. Put some in the hole. Put the pin there. Push it down as far as it'll go. Snip that off. And we're going to see if this lines up close enough. And it does. So we're going to go ahead and fill this hole. And just the surface around it. And we're going to give this a good squeeze. Let that ooze out, come out. I'll help fill in the seam or the gap. Hold there. This is thick CA, so it takes it about 10-15 seconds for it to start to solidify. And I can hit with some zip kicker. And that's it for that. So now what I'll do is once this dries all the way, I'll just hit this with some paint thinner and I'll just do some A's work over that seam or that gap. Let's see, this one looks like it goes here. Now this one, I don't have room for a pin. There's not enough meat. So we're going to glue it and then we're just going to sculpt around the outside with some A's to give it some more support. So this one is gluing the two surfaces together. Like this. And we have some zip kicker just to kick it off. And then we got this one over here. Find this piece that goes there. I think this is it. Yeah. Again, there's not enough meat here. So I'm going to do this branch on camera, and then I'll do the others off camera. You get the idea. Not enough meat, so we're just going to hold this for a few seconds. This shouldn't take too long to fix these. Okay. So then that's all the tips that were broken on this one. So now I'm going to show you, I'm going to go ahead and glue the other ones on, and we'll come back and show you how I'm going to do the A's work to kind of solidify things. Okay, so I pinned and glued all the little tips. Pinned the tips I could, and then glued the other ones. So now I'm doing is I'm mixing up some A's, 2-part epoxy, same stuff I used on the rekeying the branches. I cleaned the primer off all the areas that got repaired, because I need the primer off in order for this to stick. And now what I'm going to do is I'll show you on one of these. I'm just going to use some A's to kind of resculpt on the back side of these tips where the resin is really thin, because even though I was able to pin and glue them, now that area is compromised as far as strength goes. So I want to reinforce it a little bit. So I'm just going to mix this up, and it is not going to take a lot. And I don't want to resculpt too much, but like in this branch right here, I'm just going to push this in. Also, this will kind of help fill in any small gaps that may be there from gluing. And I like to use Q-tip. It's a good sculpting tool. So again, just kind of reinforcing these joints that are now weakened by being broken. I'm just dipping the Q-tip into some alcohol. And I'm just going to, I can just kind of dab on the A's and like this, and it replicates the tree bark texture. And once this gets all painted, you won't be able to tell I've done anything to it. Like that one's done. So just like that, you go in and do that to these other ones. And then that just adds a little more strength to these areas that got broken. Maybe a little overkill, but it's not going to take long to do this. And once I get this done, I think I can finally wash all the parts and get primer on. And I think the prep work is done. I can start painting tomorrow. So I've got about 3.5, 4 full days of just fixing and prepping this thing. Way more than anticipated, but you know, it is what it is. You want to, especially on something that's a piece like this, it's worth the extra time and effort, I think, to just go in there and do it, you know. I'm not sure if any other builders have gone in, builder painters have gone in and done all this work on their pieces, or if their pieces had this many issues, fitting issues, as this one did. And right here, it's got this little thin branch is very weak. Because there's not a pin in this one. There wasn't enough meat for a pin, so this A's will just help strengthen that joint a little bit. just like that. I think that looks pretty good. Again, this is not really this is just really for strength than anything. All right, so just like that. So I'm going to do that to the other ones, and then I'm going to start washing parts, and then we'll throw some primer on this stuff. Okay, so I washed all the parts, let them dry. Now I'm in the spray booth. I'm spraying some Stynol Res Gray primer, just gray primer. And I'm using my Iwata HPTH trigger gun. Now it's interesting, if you look at the factory primer, it's kind of warm and got a little bit of green in there. I like to just put a light coat of gray Stynol Res on there, kind of neutralizes that. And also, since I've been working on this kit quite a bit, I wanted to wash everything and get a coat of primer. So I got my PSI set up kind of high, but this is a great gun for, a lot of people ask me like kind of one of my favorite guns are. Sorry about the noise, this fan, I've actually replaced my fan. But this is one of my favorite guns because it's got a nice big fan spray pattern. And for big pieces like this, it covers very well, very quickly. So I'm just gonna put a light coat of primer on. I don't need to put a lot on because I already got the factory primer. And since I washed everything, this should adhere well. As you can see, I can cover this base relatively quick with this Iwata HPTH. I can probably turn my air pressure down a little bit. And I can crank in my needle a little bit so not so much material's coming out. I've got this on a turntable, so I can rotate it. Oops, like my camera. My monopod is loose. Alright, so there's a primer on the base. Alright, here's one of the heads. Just a light coat. Sorry about that. 1 second. My monopod is loose on one of the sections, so it's kind of falling down. 1 second here. I'm not going to show a whole lot of this on camera because it's the same thing just for all the parts. The light coat. Pause. Alright. So I can keep my monopod from moving while I'm filming. Just like that. Only pieces of armor. So someone may ask me what my PSI is. I don't know. I never look at my numbers. All my air gauges are to the point where I can't read the numbers. I just adjust it until it sprays how I want. But there you go. So I'm going to continue priming the pieces. This will take me a couple hours to do. And then we'll let it all dry for a couple hours and we'll put it together and see what everything looks like. I want to show you, like on some of these bigger pieces, that's hard to put clamps and stuff on through the hole. I'll drill a hole in the piece and I'll use a hook to hang the pieces. If you follow me in the past on Facebook and stuff, you see I'll hang pieces up a lot of times just to make them easier to handle. So like these legs, which are heavy, they're solid, and there's no really good place to clamp to and not get primer everything. I put a hole and I hang it. I use just the air to blow it off. Now this allows me to prime everything, keys and everything, much easier. And then I have one of my photo light stands I'll put up in my work area, and I just hang parts from those for drawing and just organization. Especially on a piece like this that's got so many pieces, it takes up a lot of counter space and stuff. Just the logistics of handling this many pieces is challenging. So I'm not dealing with really big pieces, I'm dealing with a lot of pieces. So you gotta have your work area organized in a manner that you can access all the pieces easily, get them up hanging if you're drying or spraying. Is a big part of just kind of working with these big statues and just big models in general. And I can come in here and I can spray all the way around really easily. And then I'll go hang this up on my work area to dry. But that's how I do big pieces. So like the torsos will get hung like this too. And again, I don't care if there's a hole in the key because you're not going to see that once it's put together. Again, I've had clients come like, why are there holes in my parts? He's like, well, it's because I put holes in them to hang pieces. And you don't see them anyway, so it just makes painting and handling easier, especially for drawing. Okay, so after several hours, I got all the parts washed and primed. And this is all going to dry for a while, a couple hours. Probably let it dry overnight. As I was mentioning, I hang things up to dry. So this is the light stand I use, and those are the torsos and the legs hanging up on that stand. But yeah, so it's a good day's worth of work. And as I was priming, I was looking at my prep work, and everything looks really good. There's one little area on the torso I may hit on the naked torso and just do a little sanding and a little more filling, but I think we're like 99.9% there, ready for paint. So I think I'm going to call this video done. And I thought about putting this all together today, but I really need this to dry overnight. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back with the next video. So thanks for watching, and catch you guys in the next one.